time I got to the basement, I knew I'm not going to give too many specifics because I want to be careful. Mm-hmm. But I knew what to use to hang myself so it wouldn't break. I knew what to use that would bind down enough to where even if somebody cut me, they wouldn't be able to get it undone. Or, you know, like I thought of everything. Mm. And I hanged myself. I like these things.
Isn't that cool?
Like, you don't hear anything. I got some cheap ones that I'm probably not going to use just because I don't like how noisy they are.
Yeah.
The spring-loaded ones.
Oh my gosh!
So they were given. It was all given to us.
Yeah, Jeff Polk gave me one, and it was so annoying. Even if you bumped into it,
barely.
Like, doing,
Yes. So it's one of those. Yeah, and my dream would be able to get the Roadcaster.
Oh, I want one so bad.
That thing looks
sick.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I saw a YouTuber, and he was just so honest. He was like, bro, if you only have 2 people on your show, don't get this. Like, this is for high-end stuff. Like,
that's right.
If you're just starting, don't buy this. And so I just ended the video. It's like, okay, cool. I'm not going to buy it yet. So,
I mean, this is...
It's great. It has sound buttons. So, like, this one's laughing. This one's clapping. This one's like a wah-wah. Yeah. And then this is like a psh for a joke.
Cool.
I don't really use it. And then you got your mic stuff. And then you got your headphones.
And dude, I've listened to your stuff. It
sounds great. Yeah, it sounds really good. And you can buy a Bluetooth thing where I can hook up a phone. So I can talk to someone on the phone, and then it records straight into this.
I'm going to write this thing down before I leave.
Yeah, Zoom PodTrack P4. It's sick.
Because I need something. I don't have the money for it, but I need something. Mm-hmm. Just because, dude, there's things I want to do.
Yeah.
Like I want the cordless... or the wireless mics, mm-hmm. you know, the square ones. Mm-hmm. But then there's one that comes with the lapel mic. Mm-hmm. It's like $3 something on Amazon.
Gotcha.
And that's what I want. That way, because once I start recording the story thing, I'm probably going to have to find a place up at the church because I can't do it at home. Mm-hmm.
Is it because of your kids? Is it just too loud?
Kids, and there's just not a space that's aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
And, you know, like this... is a good starting point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Watching it, I'm like, hey, that looks pretty good.
Yeah.
But that is a thing you have to consider, especially mine's going to be it's going to be all driven on. I mean, actually, I'm thinking I could do Robbie Sawtails as a podcast.
Mm-hmm. That'd be cool.
And just post the stories on there too.
Just film at Barnes and Noble.
Just kidding. Yeah, just show up.
Can you guys move? Like, this is my studio.
Yeah. But dude, it's the kids section. It's whatever, man. Okay.
Dude, the amount of
Hey, buddy, why are you in the bathroom? It's too echoey.
This is my office, yo.
It's my office. Office.
But I'll add this. Okay, the amount of gay books in the kids section at Barnes and Noble,
sick,
is insane. I saw the gay BCs. It's an ABC book.
I've seen that.
Okay.
So,
sorry, the gay BCs is so stupid,
dude. Legitimately. I'm pretty sure there are things out there of other people from other places talking about how everything that's going on right now is intentional to destroy America from the inside. Dr. Phil just interviewed President Trump.
Okay.
And he showed President Trump pictures of where all the people from China are buying property.
Okay.
Majority of them are around some of our biggest military bases. Not a coincidence. Mm-hmm. And we're just letting it happen.
Well,
and it's driving up. Anyway, dude, this is a topic I'm passionate about. Like I've gone down some rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Because it's sick. But like for the longest time, I remember I was telling people, I didn't know that there was maybe it's Paul Harvey or somebody, some old radio show.
Okay.
A guy from church told me about it. Are we recording?
We are.
So I'm just,
no,
we're just in it.
Yeah. I was going to do the intro sometime after you shared. You want me to do the intro real quick?
Here. Time.
Thank you, Lord. I mean, welcome to Sip&Awe for the listeners. Welcome back. Robbie Bowman Pt.2. Son, we'll do the intro real quick. Put your coffee mugs in the air. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, Lord, for the day that he has made for you and me. Uno, dos, tres.
It's still good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I actually had to add cream.
It's okay.
I'm just a cream guy.
It's
so,
okay. No,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But at least you admitted that you can taste a significant.
Oh my gosh.
So, like, for real. Let me tell you why I'm like coffee. If it's like the place where I get it, they roast their own coffee, and then they put it on the shelf like after a couple of weeks because you don't want to roast it and then immediately. That's just
Is it like whiskey? You let it sit?
Gotta let it sit at least for a few weeks. So, and the coffee is always for them. It's always going to have a roasted on date. If your coffee doesn't have that, that's how you know it's bad coffee. Just throwing that out there.
Awesome.
But coffee as it sits, like when it gets lukewarm and even when it gets cold, it should change the flavor profile, but it shouldn't be nasty.
Interesting.
So, anyway.
I want to get to a point where, and I'm not like this yet because it's just so expensive. But I love those Instagrammers, the coffee people, where they get unroasted beans. They roast them themselves.
Yes.
They put it in the grinder. They just do everything.
That's my dream.
I want to get there.
My dream is to one day have enough money to where I could actually purchase a big roaster so I can make the coffee for our church.
That'd be sick.
So we can get away from this crap.
Community coffee.
I'm sure it's great.
Terrible.
For some people. And maybe there's a place where, because community is a Louisiana thing, and I appreciate that. I think we should support, but anyway.
Yeah.
But man, to be able to have our own brand of coffee.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah.
SC Cafe coffee.
Give it some funny, like each blend, give it a funny, like Christian themed name.
Like the Duron roast. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Text my wife. Cool. Yeah, so where were we? We're talking about China?
So time back in. Okay. So, yeah, you have all the property that's being purchased. There's a lot of things happening that once you start, people always say it's, I call it critical thinking. What do they call us?
Americans.
Conspiracy theory.
Oh.
Americans. So critical thinking, it's because when you start looking at information and something goes, wait a second, that, I don't know what it is, but that's not right. So I had this theory for a long time. It's when I was working at the cafe at our church. This is quite a while ago. I remember hearing some people talking about like nukes, and there was something in the news and people were afraid. And they were like, and if this happens, destroy America, blah, blah, blah. I didn't mean to. First of all, they were talking loud enough to where I could hear.
Which means they're talking to me too. Just kidding.
I assume that that's what that means. So I laughed at something that this guy said. I don't mean to.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've been told that some things I do can come across as rude. I don't mean for them to. Sometimes I have a legitimate response, and they just looked at me and went, "Sorry, you're wrong." I don't blame you for what you're looking at, because it does make sense that if they have this could happen. I started laying that out. And so one of the other dudes asked me, like, okay, so what do you think? How would it be done? I went, they're doing it now. Step one, what we've already seen. Take God out of everything. Okay? This is important. And here's proof of this. If you're a Christian as a social media influencer of any kind, the trolls come out. I guess you believe in Santa Claus too. And they leave these dumb, moronic comments because they don't have anything else. They're idiots.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that offends them.
Yeah.
But they are. They're to me, like, if somebody says, well, I'm an atheist, I'm like, you can't be. It's impossible. At least say you're agnostic. At least say something else, but anyway. So
now help my brain. So atheism is you don't believe in God at all.
Any God at all.
And
Agnostic means
you
I'm
believe
at least
something.
open, because agnostic to me would be like somebody going, okay, clearly something had to be created at some point.
Right.
It had to.
Yeah.
And that's when you get into a lot of debates where people are like, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm like, no, look, I'm not trying to like super smart it up. Okay. I know that's not how you say that. That was intentional. I just want to look at the obvious.
Yeah.
Stop trying to read into everything and look into the obvious. Anyway, so these people come out and they're like trolling because it's become commonplace to bash God and to bash Christians, especially if you're a white, straight man. Mm-hmm. Dude, and a Christian, that's the trifecta of like, you shouldn't have an opinion, go crawl in a hole and die. I mean, that's how the like certain people believe. I won't say which party, but people who are Democrats, they believe this. It's so not all of them, I know. Okay, I'm overstating it, but so the first step is you take God out of everything. Step 2 is you demonize men. And that is 100% what we're seeing. Mm. And so when you demonize men, and how do you do that? Do it through programming. Mm-hmm. So you turn on for a long time now, you turn on a show and you see the dad. He's usually the moron. He's always getting things wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny you say that. I've noticed that.
It's been a common thing for a long time. And I really do believe, I know it's just conspiracy, but I'm like, no, it eventually, when everything lines up, like, I'm sorry, but I'm almost batting 1,000 on everything. Mm-hmm. Last time I checked, that's called winning.
Yeah. So,
and there are obviously, there are people who vote Democrat because that's what they believe in, and they're good people. I'm not saying they're not. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is, like, if you look at the way that destroying everything has started to happen, and then the next step is, once you've minimized the role of a man in everything, then you attack the kids. Mm-hmm. That is what we're doing. That's the reason why you can go. People are like, well, you should be able to love whoever you want to love, and they should be given equal opportunity. I'm like, no, they shouldn't. Mm-hmm. It's just wrong.
Yeah.
In a normal environment for almost all kids, they're always going to choose a more heterosexual way of thinking. Mm-hmm. The more you indoctrinate kids and make it normal, so to say anything otherwise, like the things I'm saying right now, it's classified as hate speech. Mm. Why is that? Mm. It's all by design. It is like, man, I don't know, just through the years I've picked up on things. And I really do, I know this may be weird for other people if they're not grounded in God, mm-hmm. okay? But there are just certain things spiritually that we can see for those of us that really have a legitimate relationship with God. We can see things happening spiritually and we're like, that's evil. It's evil.
Yeah.
We can see it. We can identify it. And just because people disagree doesn't mean that we're wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what? So I used to challenge myself. I had no money for gas. I was broke. I was a single parent, trying my best to raise the 2 kids. And my oldest daughter, I legitimately say this all the time, she got the worst version of me. Mm-hmm. And I do believe in a lot of ways, and she'll have to forgive me for this, but that I've watched her life. I watched her struggle because of how broken I was. But there was a period where I would challenge myself. Like let's say I wasn't working, it's a Saturday, I have off and the kids are wherever. And I would get in the car and I would say, okay, God, I really do want to go out today and I want to reach somebody. Mm-hmm. On this particular day, a lot of times I would go downtown Shreveport. And since they've run all the homeless people out from downtown, so they took away benches and they don't have a place anyway. But used to, they would be on the benches, and toward the evening time, they would just start showing up. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like ninjas, man. They would there they were, and you're like, wow, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like,
how'd you do that?
Where were you?
And I would go down there and I would just talk to them.
Cool.
Just because sometimes that's really all a person needs. It's like, hey, I want to feel heard. It doesn't matter how bad I stink or there's a legitimate mental illness associated with most people that are homeless. It's mm-hmm. not just a drug thing. They may just be sick.
Yeah.
And sometimes just having just somebody like me, I'm not normal, but to them who would seem like a normal human being, to sit down with them and to talk. So that's what I would do. Well, then I remember it started getting cold outside, and I'm like, wait a second. I used to hate when I would drive by a bus stop and I see somebody waiting and it's cold outside and they don't have a coat on. That would irritate me because I'm thinking, dude, I'm going to get out of my car that's heated and I'm going to walk inside to a building that's heated. that little short time span, I don't mind being cold. So I'd give away my jackets. That's why I could never have one, because I would always be like, oh man, and my jackets are huge. Okay, I'm tall. I'm all torso.
Yeah.
So I put it around somebody. It's like a blanket. I'm like, hey, you're welcome. And well, so I started I would go to Goodwill and look for blankets and scarves and stuff.
Cool.
So I was downtown. I was trying to look for homeless people, because when it gets cold outside, the ninja effect kicks back in and I can't find them anywhere. Mm-hmm. I know they don't have a home. Where do they go? Mm. So I'm driving around a lot of the back streets that I normally wouldn't be on, and I'm looking, and I see this person, looks like a female, outside of a club.
Cool.
That is normally for people that are a part of the Rainbow Mafia, right? And so I went up, and from afar, I really thought it was a female. And I just thought, oh man, I really remember seeing some homeless people around here. I was really nervous. I'm like, okay, I'll just go ask this lady real fast. Mm-hmm. I get out, and almost as soon as I opened the door, I had something within me. I was like, this is why you're here. Mm. Now, I love listening to the Spirit of God, but there are some times when I feel like I'm going to vomit because I don't want to do it. Mm. And so I try to bargain.
Preach it. Yep.
Okay. So I walk up, and I get a little closer, and I notice, oh, it's one of those. I don't know what to call him. Okay. I feel like it's a dude.
Yeah.
He clearly done some things to change his appearance. Mm. All right. Without thinking about it, and I wasn't doing it on purpose, I walk up and go, hey, man, can you do me a favor? Because, I walk up to dudes, and that's usually what I say, hey, man. I didn't think about how he was dressed. I just instinctively, that's what I said. I wasn't trying to be offensive. I went, hey, I have some blankets and stuff I'm trying to give away to homeless people. I have a jacket in here. I know, are you cold? Mm-hmm. Do you need it? He's like, no, man, I'm good.
Yeah.
And I said, but I'm looking for some homeless people. And I went, okay, wait. I know for a fact that I'm here to talk to you. I really am looking for homeless people, but I'm here to talk to you. The overwhelming thing that I'm sensing is your dad's ready for you to come home. Mm. He loves you and he wants you to come home. I didn't mean that like Heavenly Father thing. I mean like literally, your dad wants you to come home. Immediate like emotional response. And he looks down, okay? And he goes, look at me. I can't go home. And I told him, I said, listen, as a father, I promise you something. None of that matters. And of course, I'm like, no, I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What matters is your dad really wants you to come home. I just need you to trust that I drove all the way across town. Can't find any homeless people for the first time in ever.
Yeah.
And you just happen to be the one that I'm talking to. Mm-hmm. Take that as your sign that God has bigger things for you. I prayed for him. Mm-hmm. No salvation prayer or anything, awesome. I would have loved that would have happened. Mm-hmm. He just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And he goes in for a hug. I love hugs, but in this case, it was very awkward because I'm like, I've never been in this. You're more endowed upstairs than some women I know. That's weird to me. Right?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know what to do. So I'm like giving the side hug kind of thing. Like, all right, bro, make sure we fist bump afterwards.
Yeah.
Right. And, not really, but, and he thanked me.
Wow.
For just talking to him. Mm-hmm. He just thanked me. Now, I've told this before to some people who aren't Christians. They're like, and they were saying like, oh, you're just making stuff up and whatever. I'm like, you'd be shocked how many people who are part of that community that I've talked to. So a lot of times before ever even letting them know I'm a Christian. And I've had multiple times when the truth from them comes out. Mm-hmm. So for some of us, for a lot of us like who are Christian, when we're standing up against these things and we see the books in children's sections, we're like, no, it's not right. When you're an adult, do whatever you're going to do.
Mm.
Stay away from the kids.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do.
Mm.
Stay away from the kids.
Yeah.
It's not inclusive.
Right.
I can't stand when we use that term improperly. And they do, and they'll argue it and define it, and they'll do, but because there's no winning in that argument. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, that's why I don't talk about it with people in that community, because I know that there's no winning any of it. But I know that I've had multiple times when at some point in the conversation, I can see the pain already. Mm-hmm. And I never do it in a judgmental way, because I want to make sure. You know what it makes me think of is the woman at the well. Like, it's one of those stories with Jesus that if somebody didn't know how to read that, they would think, bro, Jesus is being rude, man. And that isn't what he was doing. Mm-hmm. And she was so amazed by the conversation that she went and told everybody about it.
Yeah.
Jesus chose to love. He touched the leper. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Actually, if you really think about it, just on the nastiness of it, mm-hmm. Our first response really should be to love people properly. And I do think there's sometimes when I can get so overwhelmed by the sickness mm-hmm. that we now call normal, mm-hmm. that I get so angry about it that the way I voice my opinion is somewhat hateful.
Yeah.
But for the right reasons, but I don't think anything should ever be fueled by hatred. Mm. So anyway, that was a very long tangent.
No, it was great. I recently talked to a guy on the podcast, on the show, mm-hmm. and bless his heart, but he was essentially saying that homosexuality isn't a sin. And he was one of those Christians where it was basically Jesus is not the only way to salvation. And rather than preaching at people, we should take the Bible out of it and hear their experience. And it's weird. And people mm-hmm. are basically picking and choosing what they want to believe. And we live in a really scary time because someone can say, I'm a Christian and I'm a gay pastor and it's awesome. Like, wait, what?
There are a few churches in Shreveport. Mm-hmm. One specifically has rainbow flags out by the road.
Did you know that one shut down? Did you know that?
So
the one by Ellaby Road? On Ellaby Road?
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about.
They shut down.
So first of all, we shouldn't have to say this because I feel like every Christian should be on the same page. A true church should welcome all people. Mm. I just don't understand why that's the one thing we're not allowed to address. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't it be weird if you stepped into church for the first time and you're a drug addict and somebody's trying to help you through your addiction and I come up and go, hey man, he's a drug addict. That's a part of his identity. Mm-hmm. Man, hey, let me help you with your drug addiction, buddy. Mm-hmm. I have one. Their stuff is more pure. Let me hook you up with them. God loves everybody. Like you wouldn't, I'm overstating. You know what I'm saying? It's a ridiculous situation, but you wouldn't look at somebody that has something that really is affecting them, damaging them, and make that okay. Mm-hmm. And this is arguably, statistically, by the way, is hurting them.
Yeah.
So part of my mental health journey, I've gone to multiple counselors trying to find the right fit. Mm-hmm. I won't say any specific names, but there was one that I went to that I know they do not disagree with certain lifestyles.
Okay.
Or as far as their practice, they don't. So one day I addressed it because I said, I just don't know that I can be, I can't,
right.
I can't associate with somebody that is willing to harm children that way. I just can't. And they made it abundantly clear that they disagree with it too. But the reason why that they include it is for insurance purposes.
Whoa. Wow.
Money. But think about it. You go to school for a long time. You know what I actually plan on doing one day? I would love to go around the country into practices, sign a confidentiality agreement so nobody ever knows where the place is and who the person is, but still have it documented that I did talk to a legitimate like doctor or whatever, somebody in the profession. I would like to find all the ones that are in that practice that disagree with it.
That'd be cool.
Because I would argue that if they would be honest, something deep down, because first of all, they went to school for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They know.
Yeah.
They understand the way the brain works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our neurons, the way they fire, the way that we can. I've studied a lot about this. I committed suicide 17 years ago. Was dead for about 30 to 40 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I know you said we were going to get in before we
yeah.
push record, get into the story, but that's something, and we will talk about that because it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But my still to an extent, I still have some minor issues. Most people would never know, but I notice because I do remember how it was like before. I've learned to accept it. I think it's more of a blessing than it is a curse. But I started studying the human mind and like, why does our brain work the way it does? And I don't know if it's Dr. Amen or somebody else, but they had this book that included brain scans that showed when you have a belief, good or bad, it was like a cluster of cells around that. Look, like when you stretch out, it looks like a little forest. So if we start targeting kids and like certain organizations, I won't say which one, but when Disney and people like that start, I love doing that. Yeah. When they go on record saying that they're going to make sure that literally everything they do is geared toward, like has LGBTQ, whatever the numbers and symbols are, that they're going to include that in everything they do, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
That's an intentional design. And what happens is the more a person sees it, that belief system becomes hardwired into our brains. Because if you don't know any better, there's so many people that agree with that community because they don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be mad at that.
Yeah.
You can only know what you know.
Right.
And to me, it's disturbing that we're not allowed to call things out. And yet there are some people who claim to be Christian, some organizations that are doing it in the most hateful way possible.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
Is literally the polar opposite of what Jesus would have done.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus, when he encountered somebody, said, now go and sin no more.
Right.
Don't sin anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like the woman at the well, he knew that she was going to go back to that home living with somebody that wasn't even her husband.
Mm-hmm.
But he would tell people, hey, now, or what about the conversations we don't know what happened? Mm-hmm. But that person left and was changed and gave money back to all the people he robbed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what an encounter with Jesus should do. Mm-hmm. And we can love these people into a community.
Yeah.
Dude, at our church, we have a lesbian couple that shows up with their kid or kids. I don't know. And I've been around others, you know, through the school, and I've been others through other churches I've seen. And they know, but they're working through it. Mm-hmm. And that should be okay.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway.
No, I love that you're talking about it, because the guy that I talked to, he was saying Jesus loved, but his definition of love, and this, you know, is so skewed. Yep. He was saying to love people like that, we need to accept who they are. That's what love is, Robbie.
Okay. I've always made this argument.
That's what it is.
Okay. I was talking to somebody once, and I said, okay, listen. Let's say you love who you love, right? Mm-hmm. All they're looking for is just to be accepted. And I laid out everything, and I gave all these scenarios, and this person was so emphatic, went, yes, that's what I'm talking about. I left out a fact. I'm so sorry. And I did on purpose, the setup. And then I said, well, what about, I don't want, certain words I don't want to say because I don't want it to trigger adult children type relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, I was reading a book that was talking about how they were doing scans of people that have that struggle and how the way their brain was firing seemed normal. Like it really was just a part of who they were.
Mm-hmm.
So by that standard, we have to say that that's okay.
Mm.
And it's not. That should go without saying.
Right.
But so that idea, if you're, I mean, to be inclusive means you have to be inclusive across the board.
Right.
So you can't draw a line in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where people get so offended. They're like, yes, you can. I'm like, okay, well, rewind the hands of time. Not that long ago, being trans was just weird.
Mm-hmm.
Gender dysphoria, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You're born how you're born.
Mm-hmm.
How is that an argument we have these days?
Mm-hmm.
What? That's dumb.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden we made that okay.
Yeah.
And the more you push, the more you push, the more you push. There are multiple videos from licensed professionals saying that we can no longer call it the P word for those kind of people. We should call it minor attracted persons.
Yep.
Because they can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Don't address love for what love really is.
Mm-hmm.
I love my kids enough to tell them the truth.
Yeah.
I have gone through, I've done some really stupid, like I said on the last one, like I've done arguably probably some of the, like certain things that most people will never do in their lifetime. I was a moron. I was so broken, hurt a lot of people unintentionally. And at any stage where I had accountability, there are certain people, you know, at church, there's Brian, there's a guy named Mark, there's even Pastor Denny, there's several, Pastor Rhonda at church. There's several people that I would go to because they would tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
I went to them on purpose because I needed the truth. I don't need some stupid candy-coated crap because I'm going to leave and it's not going to make me want to change. Mm. If you love somebody enough, you should be able to lovingly, that's the trick, lovingly tell them the truth and help them on their journey to getting better. Mm-hmm. You know, a friend of mine, Robert, who has since passed away, I didn't mind telling him the truth, but I would ask him ahead of time, be like, okay, listen, in this friendship, do you want me to be honest with you? Or do you want me to pat you on the back every time we meet and just say, hey, buddy, you're such a winner. You're doing a great job, buddy. I love you're not there for your kids or whatever, whatever he was, because he was an addict. Mm-hmm. And he admitted that he wasn't there for his kids. He wasn't, and I know that he was trying to let God patch that relationship, just like I hope happens for me too with my older kids.
Yeah.
But telling him the truth, beside my desk, I'm going to try not to get too emotional. There's a thank you card from Robert. And now that he's gone, it means a lot more to me. And he was thanking me because the way I loved him through telling the truth meant the world to him. Mm. And also giving him some non-negotiables. One of mine is like, dude, be clean. Mm-hmm. I told him to obsess about it. And he did it and his life got better.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
But like it meant something to him that I could lovingly tell him the truth. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that really is what, no matter what somebody's struggling with, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the Rainbow Crew. It could be anybody, anything. There could be people who came from an abusive environment like me who still to this day have trouble loving themselves. That's my biggest issue, negative self-worth. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I mean, it literally led me more than once to attempt suicide. Mm-hmm. I'm really bad at staying dead. Mm-hmm. That's a terrible thing to say. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. People are like, one day, we all die and meet Jesus. I'm like, some of us do that.
Maybe.
And we come back.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, in the Bible, there are 2 people that did not die.
Yeah.
I'm all for the fiery, whatever thing, spaceship thing that's going to take me away. Yeah. I'm down for that. But it's, yeah, the loving thing we've misconstrued.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that came from a broken generation of people who maybe some of us grew up in damaged homes, and we didn't, like, all I've ever known really was a conditional love. It wasn't said, but it was really an environment where it's, I'll love you if.
Right.
And it, not her fault at all, actually. I mean, still to this day, there's so many amazing qualities of who she was or is that I've taken away from that, but I still can't deny the things that happened. And I think there's a generation of people who went through brokenness, and so we were afraid of doing the same thing. And so because of that, we became, what's the word, too passive? And just everything we allowed.
Yeah, can you talk about a little bit, how can we as Christians love people through their struggles with the truth? Because I think that maybe some people are just really bad at just shoving the truth down people's throats. And they're just like, if you don't change, you're going to go to hell. And it's just weird. It's like, so how do we, and I know every circumstance is different. How do we do it? What do we do?
I've had quite a few friendships, where, I mean, they're not like inner circle friendships, but they're like outer circle acquaintance / friends, and whereas they were okay with me telling the truth, but it wasn't in a way where I'm like bashing them all the time either. I mean, don't get, like, Robert's like the one I used just because when he was alive, by the way, he was all about me sharing anything that we had discussed. That's the only reason why I'm sharing is because I know he would be okay with this moment. In fact, he'd probably like punch me in the arm and then hug me and say, "Bro, that was awesome." There were moments when I'd look at him and say, "Okay, stop. Just stop talking for a second." That was one of the most moronic things I've ever heard anybody say. I love you, but you know what you said. I think you forgot who you're talking to, man. So I want you to start over. Let's tell the truth, because that's my... And no, I wouldn't say don't just call people morons, but again, because I knew that friendship.
Right, yeah.
We had known each other since high school.
Yeah.
And then he would go, "Man, I'm sorry." And then he would tell the truth. And so for me, it was being able to call out behaviors. That's what I want people to do for me. If you see a negative behavior in me, correct it. Certain people correct it in a different way. They know their role in my life.
Right.
And like there was last year in March, there was the really stupid thing I'd done years ago. And in March, there was a couple people who found out about it. And dude, it wrecked my world. Because it was something that scared me, and it woke me up to like, Robbie, dude, look at what you're becoming. Do something different. Pivot, made a change.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I was perfect.
Right.
Struggled in relationships, hooking up with people when I shouldn't have, because for me, again, there was still that negative self-image of thinking, well, nobody wants to date me because I've been married multiple times, divorced, obviously. And I had this image of this idea, nobody was willing to love the real me. So at the very least, if that's something I could have, then at least it gives me something. Just a weird way of justifying my sin, really. But in that, though, I really was still trying to make significant changes in my life to make sure I never made those mistakes again. And in that, I needed people to lovingly correct me while calling things out. I needed that. Because if all I got was hey, buddy, man, you've grown so much. And those are important too. You do need the attaboys.
Yeah.
I feel like I may have deterred on something I was going to say, but whatever. But that's like getting that approval to let us know we're doing okay. That's important. But at the same time, I need people to coach me up.
Absolutely.
When I was playing basketball in the Air Force, I had a coach who was like, "Bowman, what's the goal?" Like, I don't know. It'd be cool if I could play professionally. Just anywhere. I said, okay. Are you willing to work at it? Absolutely. All right. Meet me here. We're going to practice every day. I won't negotiate on that. Mm-hmm. Literally every day we're going to practice. We went in. He had to tell me some hard truths, coach me up, use some very colorful language while doing so. And we would go through and do like basic drills.
Yeah.
Just over and over. Annoying basic drills. And I remember at the end of it, I got mad after like 2.5 months of doing this.
Yeah.
I'm like, Coach, this is stupid, dude. I want to play. He goes, okay, show up at this place. It was at UNLV. There was this thing anyway. People from all over the place. It's pretty awesome. And so it took a little bit, but he got me on the court. And I noticed I was playing differently. Oh, and during that 2.5 months, I wasn't allowed to go play anywhere. Mm-hmm. I could only practice, and that was it. Over time, by doing the right thing over and over and over again, my shot became more natural. The way I aligned myself when I was going for shot, or the pass that I was going to give, the block, everything that I did on the court was so calculated, but it was natural. Mm. And I've taken that lesson and started applying that in my life. We need people in our lives that are willing to be coaches who we have to give permission to call out the ugly. Mm-hmm. Like, I've seen some of the ugliest shots. I've helped people. I'm like, dude, first of all, you're shooting with 2 hands. Yeah. Bro. Or, dude, your feet, you're standing wrong. Your shoulders are crooked. Like, and by doing that, it allows they get better. But in life, it's no different. Mm-hmm. So lovingly, you need to make sure that it's a relationship. Yeah. Where they do permit you to call out the truth when it's difficult. Mm-hmm. That when they're struggling at 3:00 in the morning, I'm not going to be happy when I answer the phone. Okay. Mm-hmm. I don't answer the phone anyway. I actually called you yesterday. Did. Yeah. Dude, I panicked so bad. I was like, oh, that made my stomach hurt. I hung up so fast. I was like, okay, maybe you didn't see it. And then you called back. I was like, no, it's my worst nightmare. So if but I will answer if somebody's in trouble.
You're like, hello?
Especially if somebody's calling me that late. Yeah. I know that, but it's letting them know that you're there. I gave a very long answer for that. But I'm really passionate about helping people is that there's a right way to do it, and you can't be soft about it. There are moments to be soft. Right. I feel like most people know the balance. Yeah. We just forget. Mm-hmm. Because like I can get very passionate about certain communities that are ruining our country and overstate things, which I probably did already on this microphone. Yeah. But it's like, I need to remember, but there is a loving way to address things with those people. Like if you have a friend who's in trouble. Anyway, I don't know.
I love correction too, because one, we all need it. Mm-hmm. That's one thing we can't run away from, because the Bible says our Father who's in heaven will correct us. Yep. Right? And I don't know where in the Bible. I could probably Google it, but it says being corrected hurts, and it doesn't feel good.
That's right.
But it produces joy if received.
That's so good.
When I read that verse, I was like, dude, because I don't know about you, I hate correction so much. Like, honestly.
I used to. I don't hate it as much anymore.
What talk to me. What did you do different? Because I hate getting corrected.
Changing my mentality.
Okay.
I don't love it.
Right.
I don't think. I love the outcome. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of it. Yeah. I know that with proper action steps, when corrected, if I apply those, there's a payoff. Mm-hmm. It took allowing some of those pastors to speak into me. It wasn't comfortable at the time. And there was a couple of times where I was called out for some ugly, just, again, certain relational aspects. Robbie, this is a big no-no. Mm-hmm. God's called you to bigger, and you're selling for far less. Mm-hmm. But it was, actually, here's one. One time, Pastor Denny showed up really early, and I was at the cafe working. And he said, all right, buddy, come here. We've got to talk. And I was like, oh no.
You knew it was coming.
And I did. I was preparing for it,
Yeah.
And we talked for a while. And he looked at me and said, Robbie, did you know, like, at the time I didn't have Xander, who's 3, but Aiden was pretty young at the time. And he said, when your son was little and he was walking, he would fall a lot. Would you like pick him up and take him back to the starting point and be like, oh, dude, you were so close? I'm like, no. That's right. You encourage him. You pick him up, teach him to dust himself off, and keep going. And he looks at me and goes, Robbie, that's what we believe here. Buddy, just get up, dust yourself off, do the right thing. There was a lot more to that conversation. I remember when I left later that day, got off work, I'll leave, and I'm halfway home, and I went, it took me this long to get it. I went, huh, he just corrected me. He did it in such a loving manner that I felt so good afterwards. And it took me getting almost all the way home where I was like, huh, that dude just corrected me.
Yeah.
And I thanked him for it. And I kind of think that's how it should be done. But there are people like him that as they would speak into my life, I would welcome it because I knew they loved me enough to go, whoa. Hey, no, remember you're going this way toward the cross.
Yep.
Okay? Don't deviate over here. I know you want to. I know what your pain says. I know this is your normal way of trying to go. Remember the cross. Robbie, remember the purpose that God has for you. Go this way.
Yeah.
And for somebody to love me enough to do that, I started to learn, like, okay, it may be uncomfortable. I don't love it all the time, but I do like it eventually.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I think that's the mentality. I had to remember, I know why they're doing it.
Yeah. And I think a great way to correct is not attacking someone's character.
That's right.
Because I love what you said. It's like God has called you to something better, or you're better than this.
Yeah.
Rather than saying you're stupid or what you're doing, like
Yeah.
rather than attacking the character, pivoting, addressing your action and pivoting. Hey, you're called, so maybe not do that.
Yeah.
And just change a little bit.
Even with my kids, like either yesterday or the day before, I remember just looking at one of my daughters and saying, hey, I just want to remind you of something. Okay. In the Bowman household, we strive to be God's best. Okay. That means in everything we do, we're a reflection. Okay. So next time when we're doing this, I want you to remember we are called to be more whatever, just whatever the situation was. Like I love my kids enough to do that. And again, I'm not the best at that. That's something I'm learning right now. Like I think instinctively I would point out the negative so much that I forget, like, hey, Robbie, how about you build them up a little bit, buddy? Like, dude, you just threw them in a well, man. Like,
yeah.
So it's just kind of remember what people did for me.
Yeah.
Because my life has been, when I say damaged, like the suicide thing, that was I don't want to be the cause of somebody going there because I love them or because I couldn't love them the way they were supposed to be loved. That scares me.
Yeah. How, coming from a place of being broken and hurt, how have you managed to not remain in your brokenness and use your past as an excuse? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. How do you?
Well, first of all, it's not easy for anybody, for almost anybody. Again, like it's thinking about, dude, when we think about everything that the brain does neurologically and you align it with the word, it opens things up to be like, dude, they didn't even understand this back then. That's how you know it's inspired by God, because there's no way they could have wrote this stuff. And known. But for a long time, I did operate out of brokenness. It's all I knew how to do. I knew I wanted to be better, but I just didn't know how. And like I said, especially my oldest daughter, she got the worst version of me. Instead of waiting for God's best in relationship, bringing in me not being enough for somebody, first of all. I had no right stepping into marriage again with how broken I was.
Yeah.
Because all I'm doing is I'm bringing a flawed version of me that's going to damage those people instead of build them up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dragging my daughter along with me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's identifying the brokenness and realizing, like, okay, it's easy to see the effects of your brokenness, right? Like when we respond to things. And for the longest time, I feel like all I was doing was using a weed eater. The roots were growing and getting bigger and stronger. I'm just trimming away the surface to make myself look better. Mm. That really is what I was doing. Mm-hmm. But it took a point for me going, okay, look, let's reverse engineer this. Okay. I did this thing. Why did I do that? Well, that's because, okay. And so now I found that. Okay, but if I did that, where did that come from? And eventually it's going backwards until we go, oh, well, there you are.
Yeah.
And it's rarely is it an easy fix. But once you know where the root is, you can pull it up. And something I've noticed about roots is, like, I've helped people pull up some pretty hefty stumps. The bigger the roots are, the more damage it does. Mm-hmm. Right. So sometimes addressing those things, it's going to hurt, but then you're going to have a good starting point. Now we can rebuild the foundation. Now we can make sure that we're not operating in our brokenness and have a clear vision of saying, wait, this is what I'm called to. I'm speaking to myself right now, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I needed this. Robbie, you are called to more.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot lately I've stepped back into operating out of brokenness.
Yeah.
And I'm a big visionary. I'm a big dreamer.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Like, I'm scared.
Mm-hmm.
One, I'm scared that my past will catch up to me. And eventually it's going to. Mm. Some things are going to come out.
Yep.
And I've got to, with God's help, I've got to figure out how I'll work through it.
Yeah.
That's why I think watching that thing with Carl Lentz is going to be a good...
Dude.
That's going to be a good one
so
for me
good.
Because it's a good example of just owning up to it. Mm-hmm. Just own up to it.
Yep.
It doesn't make it okay. Mm-hmm. Just own up to it. And that's scary. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, addressing the ugly person I was. You know what's beautiful is, so last year in March when all that stuff happened, I used to drink just a little bit, not every day. Was never out of hand. I've never been a person that let that get out of hand.
Yeah.
You know, there's the big debate of, oh, do you, can you not, whatever. Okay, look, I feel like it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
You know, ultimately, I don't think the Bible says that drinking is wrong. However, it's one of those, there are a lot of caveats to it. But mine was, you know, the privacy of my own home, just every now and then just to enjoy, you know, just sitting down, relaxing with a drink. But the problem is when all the drama hit last year in March, I drank a lot. Mm. And that night I got very close to, like, doing something stupid again. Mm-hmm. But this time I would have enough experience to make sure I was successful. Mm-hmm. Being a creative, I'm really good about thinking about everything on the spot, like freakishly good at it. Mm-hmm. And the next day maybe? Anyway, yeah. Or very soon thereafter, my wife took me up to the church, talked to somebody at our church, Miss Rhonda, mm-hmm. told her about the stuff, you know, and she looked at me and she goes, okay, well, that was stupid. I know.
Yeah.
And I think I probably made a joke like, yep, that's not why I'm here. You didn't need confirmation for that.
Yeah.
And she said, okay, look, I want to remind you of something. That wasn't who you are, and that's not who you are. Mm. Then she said, hey, you need to go to the hospital. And so I did. I went to the hospital. I was in there for 2 or 3 days, you know, just a reset. Mm-hmm. You know, and while in there, so you're not allowed to have people in your room. I remember one of the nurses came in because she thought I was talking to somebody in the room. Because I don't pray like everybody else. Like most other people, like I hear people praying. I'm like, God, I wish I could sound like that.
Yeah.
But me, I'm just like, okay, God, look.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I know you know. And I imagine if he were in this chair right here, how would I talk to him? Mm-hmm. And it's not like I'm not being reverent. I'm like, I think that's the word, but
yeah.
I'm talking to him like I would talk to my father, man.
Yeah.
And she came in the room and I said, sorry, I was talking to God. And she was impressed. That's not why I was doing it. I was trying to be quiet,
mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to bring attention to it because it was personal.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember later she said, hey, don't stop doing that.
Cool.
But there was a reset that happened though. This moment when her words and how she lovingly makes sure I didn't stay in that. And it's still hard for me, by the way. Those mistakes in my past some of them are so ugly, it's ridiculous. And it's hard not to look at myself that way and think, no, I must be this horrible person. Mm-hmm. And to check that's difficult, Mm-hmm. But it goes back to having those people who can lovingly speak into your life. It's not just about correcting behavior and calling out the ugly. It's also reminding us of who we are. Mm-hmm. It's so important. I mean, the world is hard enough as it is. Rarely have I met a sinner that needs to be reminded that they're a sinner. Mm-hmm. Maybe you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to go, wow, buddy. Hey, let's really talk about all the dumb things you've done in your life.
Yeah.
I want you to spend the next week and I want you to give me at least a list of 100. And boy, we're going to hammer those things. Like they don't need that. They know they're screwing up.
Yeah.
I need to remember that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I think I said some good stuff somewhere in there.
It's
maybe.
Great. Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah, man. Well, I just want to hand it off to you, man. Love to hear your story.
The story.
You can start. You can get as deep as you want. You can be as vague as you want.
One of the biggest moments of my life. I didn't straighten up right away after this moment, but my first nonfiction book that I will write is about this moment. Mm-hmm. With all the principles in it, a little bit about let me give everybody some advice. I'm being serious about this. Okay. Very few people want to read the story of your life. Mm-hmm. That's a harsh reality nobody likes to hear.
Yeah.
Okay. What you can do, you can take your story, make a little bit about your story, and give people the meat of what they can learn from it. Mm. So give big lessons. So that's what I'm doing in this. Cool. With this book. Every book will be the same way. But so my life really was just brokenness. Mm-hmm. It was all around me. And again, it's one of those where I'm very cautious of what I say and how I say it. I always think about what are the legalities. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of at a place where I'm like, dude, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm legitimately trying to help people. I'm not trying to be melodramatic. I'm not trying to gain some fake emotion. I'm like trying to like pandering. Is that it? Mm-hmm. It's not what I'm doing. But I do believe to speak about brokenness, it just shines a light on everything that God has done. Wow, excuse me. It was like, now's the time. We're getting that out of the way. So life of brokenness had followed me everywhere because if all you know is that's all you can operate out of. Mm. I was in a relationship and some pretty ugly things were being said. I don't remember everything, and I know that's a blessing. But what I do remember is this person passionately calling my daughter stupid, except she used the R word. I hate that word. Mm-hmm. And saying like, I can't love somebody as stupid as her. And it just, the insults just kept going. Obviously some other ugly things were said in that too. And I remember there was this, just in the moment, I wasn't a fighter really. I don't like yelling. I don't think that's necessary. I think, have the difficult conversations. I have yelled before. every time I regret it. I've never like yelled at somebody and walked away going, I showed them. I feel like, so good about myself.
Right.
Look at me, Mr. Mandy Man.
Woo! Like, why did I yell?
Wow, good job, tall, scary man. You intimidated them. No, I always walk away going, dude, you're an idiot, man. What are you doing? But when I walked away from this one, so I was living in Baltimore, Maryland at the time. And there, this is such a strange concept because where we live in the South, people don't have basements, but we did up there, right? You have your second floor, where the bedrooms are at.
Right.
Kitchen, living room.
First floor.
And then you have your basement.
You had a basement.
The man cave. And it was pretty great, actually. And I remember I was just going to walk down to the basement. By the time I reached the basement, I knew everything I was going to do. That's how quickly I shifted. Because again, remember, I've operated out of brokenness. When I was a kid, I remember, the person I was raised with, how about that? So that way I don't want to be specific. I remember when they called me and my sister into the room once and made us watch while they were going to attempt to hang themselves.
Whoa. Dude.
So when I say I come from brokenness, I mean, like, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, is your sister good? Or she?
We've both struggled. Okay. She's in a decent place right now, I think. Does
she know God?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. But so for me, like, the idea of suicide was almost common. It's weird. Like, even now, a little bit, it's weird to me. I'm like, wait. So when you feel like a failure and you can't pay your bills, like, your first thought isn't like, I need to go end it all. Like, like, I remember telling my wife that, and she's like, no, I don't even think that at all.
Wow.
I'm like, see, that's weird to me. Like, because normal for me was, that's what we do. My aunt shot herself.
Well,
no longer with us. My uncle shot himself. No longer with us. I heard, if I don't wake you up in the morning, it's because I killed myself. Like, dude, suicide has surrounded me. So for me in that moment, I knew by the time I got to the basement, I knew I'm not going to give too many specifics because I want to be careful. But I knew what to use to hang myself so it wouldn't break. I knew what to use that would bind down enough to where even if somebody cut me, they wouldn't be able to get it undone. Or, like, I thought of everything. And I hanged myself. So the human brain, according to what I've read, can go up to about 15 minutes without oxygen. And in one journal, medical book or whatever, it said, chances of survival is highly unlikely. That's what it said for anything over 15. I was hanging there for probably close to 45 minutes.
Whoa.
And everything that happens to a body happened. I had to change afterwards, if that helps people out understand what I'm saying.
Do you remember, like, anything with the afterlife? Did you see anything?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's two parts to it, actually. So when I write the book, I'm going to focus more on the Jesus part of it because, you know what? I think that's the most important.
Yeah.
But there is a harsh reality that I do know that people need to hear, and it's the last thing I'll include in the book. The first thing I remember anyway is I was surrounded by darkness. Now, so somebody once looked, they go, so you didn't see anything? I went, no, you don't, no. It was like I could reach out and grab it. I don't know how that makes sense, but it does to me.
Okay.
It was but in that moment, there was a feeling that I'd never felt before. And I know for some people it's hard to believe. For the longest time I didn't share any of this because I'm so scared of being that weird Christian. We know them. We've seen them. We've seen the videos.
Yeah.
Christian Karens, they're weird, man. Yeah. I feel bad for anybody named Karen, dude. That is,
I know. They
like,
just have a bad rap.
I'm like, look, just change it. It's okay. So I remember it sounded like just the loudest screaming that I've ever heard. And I don't know, I haven't read enough in the Word of God. Like, I know I've read it, but maybe I just haven't paid that much attention. I don't know what the Bible says about this. So I'll say that first. All I can do is just give my experience.
Yeah.
But the feeling that I felt was the absence of God's presence. nobody should ever have to feel that. Mm-hmm. So, but almost as soon as that happened, I was immediately surrounded by light, as in like it was just everywhere. I don't remember all the little specifics, but in front of me was Jesus. I mean, like he was there. And it's so weird. Somebody was like, well, what does he look like? I'm like, you know what's weird? Every picture you've ever seen, all of them, even no matter if it's super white Jesus or closer to what it really looks like. I don't know how to explain it except all of them were correct. I don't know how that makes sense, but it just does. What I do remember though is like looking into his eyes. It looked like they were on fire. Recently, I just read a verse where it says that. I didn't know that.
Wow.
But it looked like his eyes were on fire with love for me.
Wow.
The only thing I knew to do was to collapse into his arms for some reason. That's what I did. I cried for what seemed like hours. And time, and I say that, but time was totally
Yeah.
It sounded like I was trying to do a remix of the word irrelevant. And eventually I look at him and I'll make sense of this as I'm writing the book, because there's a lot of things I'm going to have to deal with as I'm writing. Mm-hmm. But it looked like my tears had been collected in his hand.
Wow.
And then he looked at me and said, Robbie, I love you, and I'm not finished with you yet. If anybody steals this idea before I write it, I will do absolutely nothing. But, so the three things I finally got out of that, it took me a long time after that to, because I still felt like a failure, you know? And so I didn't turn to God and did some pretty crazy things after that.
Yeah. How'd you come back from the hanging? Did someone find you?
Mm-hmm. Okay. The person I was, gotta be careful what I say. Mm-hmm. The person I was with at the time cut me down, but they were so pregnant, they never went down into the basement. So I knew what I was doing. While I was dead, because I was dead, I remember her saying that it sounded like somebody was saying something. I don't know what that means, because it couldn't have been me. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But she came down and she saw me hanging there. She couldn't find anything to cut me down. She had to run back up to the kitchen, and she got a knife. The Miracle Blade 2 used to be sold on an infomercial. For a long time, I had to stop watching late night television because I kept buying things. And these were supposed to be indestructible.
Wait, and there's more. You're like, oh no.
Yes. They gave me 2 sets instead of 1. And I was like,
yes.
I'd be an idiot not to spend $19.99 on these knives. Like, I can't believe they're giving me such a great deal.
Yeah.
So she came down with that knife, one of those knives, and she cut me down. Couldn't get it off my neck. Took her a long time. And I wasn't breathing at first or doing anything. But eventually
You just came back.
Came to.
Whoa.
Screaming. Mainly because again, from what I remember, my memory was jacked up for a little bit after this, because I shouldn't even be able to walk and talk. Okay. And I am able to. I am literally a walking miracle.
Wow.
That's why I make the joke, I'm so bad at staying dead. I just don't. It's terrible. Yeah. But I'm glad.
Yeah.
But so after some time, years later, that relationship was coming to an end in a very ugly way. And, I took a lot of ownership because I wasn't a good husband. I know I wasn't. And so I can't be, I was angry, but not as angry as most people thought I would be at what happened. I'm like, no, I didn't do my part. How can I expect her to be like this awesome, loving wife when I'm not being an awesome, loving husband? If I'm not leading the charge, how can I expect her to do anything in her broken state?
Right.
But it hurt. And I remember something about what was going on in their world was made public. It was so funny to say this out loud, but it was Facebook official. And that's when some people put some stuff together like, oh. Now, I don't make a habit of looking at my phone while I'm driving, but I received several messages. And I was like, oh, no.
Uh-oh.
I knew. I was on, so it's in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I was on 3132 going toward Uri Drive.
Okay, I know where you're going. Yep.
I got to the Ellerby Road exit, and I had to pull over because I couldn't see. So anytime you go that way, if you look on the shoulder of the road, there's a section where there's dark black asphalt looking stuff, and it looks like a patch job, like it's out of place.
Yeah,
that's where I stopped.
Okay,
I go there sometimes actually, and I was in church at this time, but I wasn't quite sold out to everything. You know, I just too broken. You know, I'll show up, I'll do everything I can, and maybe one day God will use me. It's kind of the mindset I had. But this time, dude, I lost it. I was crying so much.
Wow.
And I would do this thing. So for somebody as tall as I am, and I've always been broke financially, I can't wait for the day I can afford a car I can fit in. I'm so jealous of all of you. I'm like, wait, what do y'all do with leg room and head room? I'm all torso. You mean to tell me you could sit up straight if you wanted to? What does that feel like?
You're
Please
just like
tell
this
me.
in every car.
So I have to G-ride it.
Yeah.
Right? Lean back. Well, what I would do sometimes when I would pray, like there's a couple of spots on the lake I'll go to. And sometimes I'll just put my head on the seat beside me. And I close my eyes and I just kind of picture like that's like Jesus is beside me. And that's kind of one of those things I was doing on this day. And the weirdest feeling, it felt like somebody had their arms wrapped around me. Not like some weird, no, like it felt like somebody was sitting in the car and had their arms around me. It wasn't audible, but in that moment, something inside of me, I heard the same thing. Robbie, I love you. And I'm not finished with you yet. Then it reminded me, like I thought, okay, there's something, why the same words? Wrote it down. And I just would think about it. God, what is it? Took me a little bit of time, but the three things I got from it is number one, identification. Boy, if there's ever a time to write about that. Not just because of all the weird stuff, but also because in the church, and I think a lot of people are forgetting who they are. Robbie, identification, like he knows me. The one that gets me. I love you. Validation. Dude, I love the Word of God. It's like, and while we were sinners, Christ died for us. Like knowing that he was taking on, and look, I told somebody this once. I said, look, what if we are wrong? Historically, we know that event did happen. Okay. People are trying to disprove the weirdest things. I'm like, come on, dude, just stop. Okay. When you do that, you're making yourself look pretty stupid. But let's say that we're wrong. Boy, that's worth believing in still, though, isn't it? That this man wrongfully was crucified on a cross. And I'm being told that was for the sins of the world. And everything else comes along with it. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
The fact that anybody could love me that much just baffles me. And so that's why I love sharing the story now, is telling them, like, no, number one, like, Jesus is fully aware of who you are, everything. Jesus knew that I was broken, full of compromise, being an idiot. And to follow that up with immediately with, I love you, that's not an accident. That was on purpose.
Yeah.
But then to say, I'm not finished with you yet, purpose. You know, it goes back to what we we're talking about having a story. Everybody's story matters. Everything matters because God knows who you are. He is madly in love with you. And he will use everything if you'll allow him to. And that, I think that's worth sharing. So I could talk about plenty of things about abuse and having my head crushed into the ground or whatever. And some of that stuff I'll include, you know, but it's everything with all the pain I've ever been through. It's all that one moment of literally meeting Jesus face to face. Now, I don't know what that means. I don't think it was a specific heaven moment, but I do know that was Jesus. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah,
I remember literally, like, I think this was yesterday morning or 2 days ago, but like I mentioned last episode, I've been struggling with some stuff. And I deal with comparison a lot. I deal with self-worth a lot. And I'm talking to the Lord, and I can't explain it, Robbie, but the amount of love that I felt, and this might sound so dumb, but this is the only way that I explain it, but I was just thinking about me as if I was like another person. It's like when I walk into the room, I matter. My life matters. And I'm so loved, and I'm so valuable. And I just started crying because I don't know. I can't even really put it to words, but I just started to think about, like, Brandon matters. And God loves him so much. And I can't find that love in my wife. I can't find that kind of love in man.
Dude.
Yeah.
The love part. Let me just tell you, like, I love my wife more than anything on this planet. Also, you know, remember when my children were born? I was there. Watch the whole thing. Dude.
What's that like?
Listen. Some men are like, I don't want to see all that. I promise. Make sure you can watch the whole event. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give details, but you know what I'm talking about. Okay. It is, dude, it really doesn't make any sense. This baby comes out, and it is this slimy, head misshapen, just this thing that any other like circumstances you wouldn't go, oh my God, he's so cute or whatever. It doesn't make sense. But dude, the instant love, it just comes over you. It's like, that is the most beautiful. The love I felt from Jesus. The moments I've had with my kids, like seeing them born, it doesn't even come close to how I felt it when Jesus said those words. When he just embraced me, you know? Like, I don't think we can fully understand how much he loves us, because we only have our understanding of what love is here. And it just, I'm like, I hope that I can one day articulate it enough that people would hear me talk about the love of Jesus and say, that's what I'm looking for. In the middle of all my very strong opinions, that they would see the love of God and go, okay, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I don't know what I believe. I'll give it a shot, though. I mean, that's they may not know it, but that's what they're looking for. That's why they're seeking out all the weird things, is because something has to fill the void. It has to. You can't just exist. And when people realize, like, oh, that's what I've been looking for. Man, dude. And if we get to play a part in that, that's crazy. How much fun is that? You know? To look and see, like, for me to share the story. out of my brokenness and to share that stuff. Like once I finally get the book going, but it's the scariest thing I've ever written, by the way. Usually my stories are just all make believe, and I can sprinkle in. It's kind of fun, actually. I've had some crazy things happen in my life.
Yeah.
And I'll never say which parts of my book are from my life, my fictional stories, because I think people would be shocked if they knew which ones. But it's different when it's real. Like everything I'm going to write about is real in these books, and that terrifies me. But then the thought of like, dude, what if one person reads it and goes, it's like he's talking to me.
Dude.
Who cares about sales? I do, and you can purchase my books at RobbieBowman.com. Dude, support to me. Look, this is the worst timing to go off on a tangent. I feel like if somebody writes some music and puts it online, and they're a Christian, and you know this person, I should never hear this phrase, oh, that's not my kind of music. I don't care. Support them. I don't read those kind of books. I don't care. Go buy the books at RobbieBowman.com, where
Right.
It's support to me is so, we should support, like people should be jealous of how we support people inside the church. Can't help but notice that they're not. And I think we could change that anyway.
Yeah.
So
Something that my wife taught me so beautifully is to support local businesses. I didn't, like at all.
Yeah.
And then I met her, and the amount that she would tip at a small cafe or at a small restaurant, I'm like,
that's right.
She's like, and she learned this because her sister, my sister-in-law, has a baking business.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's fun.
Delicious. But support small local businesses.
Yeah, we should.
We definitely
and
should.
Especially, like in every church, but especially one of our size, the one we go to, is that there's so many people who have businesses inside our church. If anybody has any housework to be done, I just feel like they should reach out to a guy in our church named Hugh. He might not be able to do it. And then he can refer you to somebody. But if I'm not stopping first, you know what? One day I'm going to develop this idea. I've had this idea for many years. Actually, look, if anybody wants to do this, I give permission. Imagine an app.
Okay.
You put in your info, what church you belong to, whatever. Okay. And let's say you have a need. Man, my air conditioner has gone out. I wonder if somebody can fix it. Let me put that in. And it brings up, hey, there's some people at our church. Air One, I think it's what it's called.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, they do air conditions. Awesome.
That's cool.
And now you're supporting local businesses inside your church? Bro.
That's awesome.
I don't think that exists. Now, actually, I probably shouldn't have said it. That's a horrible idea. Don't do it.
You need to have a tab on your website. It's like, do this or take this. And it's just all your ideas. It's like, if you want this, go ahead.
That's a brilliant idea.
You should do that. If you want to make this app, go ahead.
Like an app that tells you where the cleanest bathrooms are on a road trip.
Which there's not a lot of locations.
There's not.
Yeah. Even the nicest gas stations are little. I mean, so far Buc-ee's is up there for me.
Bro.
Because they clean it every 15 minutes.
We've taken a trip to Buc-ee's, which is, how was it, 2 hours away?
Yeah. Going towards Dallas, yeah.
Yeah. Just for Buc-ee's. Or we'll find a reason to go somewhere else because we know we can stop there on the way.
Buc-ee's is
it's
awesome.
a pretty good business model. Yeah, they've got it figured out.
They do. I wonder how much money the guy who invented Buc-ee's is making. He's probably just chilling at home, too.
Yeah.
His house is just decked out in Buc-ee's gear.
I don't know. You know, I've never thought to look into it. I love looking up origin stories. That sounds like superhero, which I love those too. But yeah, you know, like the KFC guy. You know,
Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, who like so late in life figures out people love chicken.
Why not sell it?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up when we leave.
Right on.
Not we leave. You're not leaving. This is your house.
Yeah,
I'm leaving.
Yeah, you are leaving. Sorry. I do love origin stories too. I love origin stories where they don't give up. Did you know the Beatles got rejected 6 times from record labels before they made it?
I did not know that.
I love stuff like that.
Me too. Like, one of my favorites is the Harry Potter series.
Okay.
I know Christians will be like, oh my God.
Wizard. Satan.
But they're fantastic.
Okay.
And the fact that she was rejected so many times, or whatever it was, I forget the story, but I love somebody's down and out in a position where they really could just give up on life. Mm-hmm. And then they come up with an entire world that, dude, Harry Potter's known as a writer. I would love to have an idea that took off. Like, I do plan on, I want to one day write screenplays too. So I'm really deciding, okay, I have plenty of book ideas, but what would happen if I take some of those and instead of writing a book, I know, look, I hear all of you going, just do both. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I just don't want to. I don't want to write that many books. Mm-hmm. What if I could take some of them and just turn them into a screenplay? One of them, if they're bound to take off, maybe. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. Watching something on a screen that came from your brain?
That'd be sweet.
You know, the first time I knew that I wanted to do something in the movie industry? Mm-hmm. So my uncle Brian took me and my sister for my birthday the year Back to the Future 3 came out. And I'm pretty sure I'd seen the others. But I think...
Is that when the Western one?
Yes.
Okay, that one's good.
I love it. Mm-hmm. I love it. Actually, I think 1 and 3, obviously the best. I think the second one's like, we could have done better. But I remember we went and watched that. And I don't know that I'd ever actually seen a movie in the theaters before this. We didn't have money for that. Mm-hmm. And back then it wasn't even that expensive. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to mortgage your house to go to the movie now if you want popcorn, you know, but so I remember walking out of the theater, and there's always that initial like sunlight of like, oh my gosh, my retinas are burning. But I got teary-eyed.
Wow.
I remember this moment, dude. Mm-hmm. And my uncle was like, are you okay? And I don't know exactly what I said, but I know it's something like this. I just went, somebody got paid to make that. To me, it was like somebody was in my head. All those crazy ideas, and somebody made that. Mm. And so ever since then, I was like, you know what? One day, I'm going to create a movie or a TV show. Mm. Yeah, and I've got some pretty good ideas.
Mm. I can't wait to watch them.
I'm not going to say what they are on here. I'll tell you when we're not recording. Mm. But I have this idea, and this is I'm tossing it up for anybody who wants to consider this. So I remember when shows like Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead. I think me and you talked about this. Mm-hmm. You and I talked about this. So there were so many people who were watching those shows in church. And like just recently I found out about somebody who's watching the show Vikings. So I started watching it. I'm like, I love those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And there's some scenes, you have to fast forward through or just divert your attention for a moment. It's a great time to check like Instagram or something,
Or pray,
Or, I could do that.
It's like, Lord, I'm sorry for I know what I'm watching.
Just forgive me and continue because I'm not going to pause or stop. But it was, and I remember having this idea. If people who are Christians are watching this, how can we blend those like Christian with those somewhat dark stories? Because obviously we like them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, think about history. If you wanted like a period piece or something,
right?
If you wanted to be accurate,
yeah,
it has to be kind of twisted. Mm-hmm. Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Why do we let Hollywood have it all? Mm-hmm. We're capable of doing the same thing.
Totally.
And there are certain actors who are creating non-woke companies to make their own material, and I'm like, yes,
Finally.
yeah. Like, dude, I just want a movie. Just give me something good.
Yeah, I remember I watched on the way to my dad's house. A Man Named Otto with Tom Hanks. Have you watched it
yet.
Okay, it's
won't say
really
why,
good.
but-
Except there's this one scene that is so not needed. It is so it adds nothing to the story.
Yes.
So Tom Hanks bumps into a guy who's trans,
Oh, jeez.
and they're struggling because their dad doesn't accept them. Okay. And then they disappear. I'm like, okay, that was really stupid. And then out of the blue, Tom Hanks is trying to go to sleep. And then the trans shows up and he's like, my dad kicked me out of my house because he doesn't approve of me. And then Tom Hanks was like, well, that's stupid because you should be happy of who you are. Something like that. And I just sat there. I'm like, why? Why is that needed?
It's not.
It's
like sex scenes for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to blow everybody's mind, but guess what? We don't need those.
We don't.
You can insinuate
You
a
can.
little bit of kissing. You cut to
The door
next,
shuts or something. Something
and
classy.
Then they're in bed the next day or something.
Yeah, someone's cooking breakfast.
We're good enough. We
know.
understand what happened. You don't even have to put words on it. You don't have to go, and they had sex. No, you can
Big bold letters.
Yes, scroll flashes on the screen, giving people seizures. I'm like, dude, I've never left a movie or watched a TV show and been like, man, dude, I tell you what though, I sure could have used some more nudity. It's never even crossed my mind. Like
it's so weird.
It's weird. There are certain times when, like, maybe depending on depiction of accuracy, you would include somebody who's nude, but it's never in a situation where you're like, yes, finally. You're like, oh, that poor person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But so it'd be cool to blend those two.
Yeah.
To, like, not have to put all the crap in it, but include enough that's Christian at the same time that Christian or not, people would watch it. That would be the goal. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite movie?
That's so tough because I love a lot of movies.
Me too.
Like Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash movie's up there for me.
Fantastic.
Have you ever seen Baby Driver? It's on Netflix right now.
Me and Aiden just talked about this the other day. Everybody said it's so good.
It's so good.
Okay.
Really, it cusses a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's really good. Man,
the profanity thing, I know it's a topic for me and my wife, but it doesn't bother me as much. Maybe it should. Maybe.
Cussing
I don't
doesn't.
know. It doesn't bother me too much. When it is way too over the top, like there was a movie that used the F-bomb so many times. I'm like, dude, you didn't even have to use that just now.
Right.
Y'all included that just to be able to say it. And that's when I'm like, okay, come on, man.
Yeah. I think what bothers me more is when people say GC or GD way too, like, I can't handle that.
No,
That's
I don't
I get
don't
bothered.
agree with that either, but sometimes that's just a term that people use. And so while I don't like it, if it's in the movie, it may be like once they say it or something. I cringe a little bit. I don't like it, but I always have that thought, yeah, but they don't exist in a world with God, so I understand. But when it is over the top is when I have an issue. I'm like, guys, calm down.
Yeah.
You know, there were other words you could have put in there.
Yeah, I think my favorite TV show of all time, I don't know if we've talked about this, it's Breaking Bad. Have you watched Breaking Bad?
I've not all of it. Dude. I have a tendency, like, I'll take a break from a show, and then it's hard for me to get back to it.
It's so good.
It's very good.
It's so good.
It took me a long time to watch, just like Game of Thrones. Like, it took me so long to watch that because so many people are talking about it. But I'm like, God, but there's a lot of sex in that show. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
That was my issue.
For sure.
Breaking Bad was just one of those where I knew what the concept was. And I'm like, why would I ever want to watch something like that? And then finally, just one day at home, I was like, okay, look, I'll watch a couple episodes. And I remember I was on season 2 in a couple of days, or like after 3 or 4 days, and I was like, wait, this is great.
It's so good.
Because you, like, those shows where somebody just keeps screwing up, you're like, dude, stop. Just
But you're kind of
But
rooting
you want
for
them
him
to
too.
keep going.
Right. You're kind of rooting.
Yeah.
Because, like, okay, you have cancer. You don't make enough money. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So you're going to start making meth, start making some money.
As one does.
And then and then you figure out you're actually pretty good at it. So you just keep going. Then you start killing people. And then you just start growing in this drug empire. I get it.
It's so, just keep saying, I get it.
I get it.
I get it.
But, dude, so good.
That one's good.
Yeah, my favorite role ever is Jesse Pinkman. Like, if I could ever be an actor, because he's serious and he's funny, too, which I love. I love serious and funny.
I've been thinking about this lately, like, you're talking about if there was ever a role. So, because of how freakishly tall I am, especially on the Hollywood standard, I mean, I could just play... No, I couldn't even play Goliath. I'm not muscle. They'd be like, wow, Goliath's got a gut.
That's sad.
Why does Goliath look like he just got done crying and eating Doritos? It's the crumbs on my stomach.
It's like the Wish.com Goliath. We're on a budget. Yeah.
But I started thinking, like, okay, wait, if I write something, and now I wouldn't like make it a thing where I have to be in it. Basically, I've always thought, okay, at the very least, like Stephen King does, put me as a background character.
Yeah. Or Stan Lee.
One quick, yes.
Yeah. And his were classic.
I legitimately cried when he died. That dude. Comic books when I was little. There were so many times when it almost like saved my life by keeping me engaged in something. And then the movies, I'm like, oh,
Do you remember the last movie he popped up in before he passed? Do you know? I don't know. Yeah,
I don't. I feel like it was voicing an animated one.
Put in the comments. I don't know. what.
If
When
only-
did he pass?
If only we had Google. I don't
If
know.
only we had Google. Let's see.
No, let them comment. Let's see if somebody comments.
Okay.
Give some nice homework. But so I started thinking, like, it would be cool. So I have one idea. I'm not going to say what it is, but there's one person who's, dude, like really jacked up. And it's so twisted but clever.
Okay.
I would love, I don't know what this says about me. I'm okay. I promise I'm okay.
Well,
However,
right.
I would love to play the role. I've started practicing at home, just like, cause I'll do that. Like I want to see I need to hear what something sounds like. If I have an idea that I want to write something, I'll just be like, okay, if they said this, what would it sound like? And so I'll have dialogue going. And I really started getting into like what I was saying. And I was like, dude, I might audition for a role in my own stuff when I do it. It's a TV show idea. It's pretty good.
That's awesome.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Like I hate being that kind of guy, but it's just every now and then I'll have an idea that just excites me so much that I'm like, oh, God, give me the courage to take the action steps for this one. And it's one of those where it's going to be tricky incorporating godly principles at the same time while doing that. But there's a guy at church, also super creative, named John. I talked to him about it. And he looked at me and goes, dude, why can't we write stuff like that as Christians? Who says we can't?
Yeah.
You know, like we need the family-oriented versions of things. I have a friend of mine named Seth Himes. If I could remember his website, I'd totally shout that out.
www.sethhimes.com.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But he's a film producer.
Cool.
And they're in the fundraising stages for and his are all family oriented. And like to meet him and his family, like the Christians they are, like the way they live their life. I don't know that many people who live the way they do.
Cool.
I mean, they're so pure in heart. They have all girls for daughters, which I think is incredible. It's just so cool. And they all love Jesus so much. They've always been homeschooled. It's just everything about them is awesome. And their faith and the way they live their life is so amazing. It sometimes makes me jealous. I told him that once. I said, no, dude, like when I think of living a life of faith, you're who I think about.
That's cool.
If I could just be if I could get a small percentage of what they have, I'd be unstoppable.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
It's because it's one of those, I believe in the Word of God. I believe in the Old Testament. If you look at everything God, like Deuteronomy 28, God said, hey, if you obey my commands, here's everything I'll do for you.
But if you don't,
Yeah, there's the negative side, but I'd really try to stay on that first half of the book.
yeah,
And you look at Jesus, who's like telling us, like, hey, you can ask anything in my name, and there's all these things. I'm like, dude, can you imagine if we actually really grasped this concept? Not that I'm looking for God to be a genie in a lamp. That's not what I'm saying. But, dude,
come on.
like, that's why I'm like, dude, you're going to find people for this movie. They have a trailer they made for it, which was really cool.
Cool.
And it's actually people could find on you. I'm being for real. They should go watch the trailer. I think it's pretty good. It's called "So You Want to Marry My Daughter," and it's pretty good.
Cool. And
I'm like, dude, this. I feel like this could be. He produced another movie, but this is the one where I'm like, dude, this is your home run. This is the thing that starts it all.
Cool.
Which, I mean, the other one, but this one and the way it's designed, I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
But all that to say, we need movies like that too.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're like the yin and yang we're going to be the yin and yang of Christian movies, or like he'll get to do all the family oriented, and then here comes Robbie.
Then there's Robbie. Yeah. Well, hey, Robbie, I mean, as we wrap up, do you have anything else you want to share besides your website as we close this episode out?
You know what? I don't know what who your audience is right now.
It's everyone, Christians, non-Christians.
No, I'm just saying, I don't know, like, I'm sure there are non-Christians. So I do tend to make fun of the trolls and stuff who are very strongly opinionated and things I think that are just strange. But seriously, give Jesus a chance. I really mean that. You don't even have to have everything figured out. In fact, I think it's preferred that you don't, because you're never going to have it figured out. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to know Jesus. I mean, I know that sounds like, like you ask a question in Sunday school. Who parted the Red Sea? Jesus. Like, I know that we make Jesus the answer to everything.
But he is.
But when it comes to our lives, he really is the answer to everything, Yeah. So, but yep, that's it, man.
Man. Well, thank you for doing this. Man, thanks for driving all the way up to my house.
I loved it.
And I'm sorry that I had to reschedule.
It's all right.
I'm sorry.
Dude, I really read into it. I was like, because I think you were within earshot one day when I was having a conversation with somebody. I seriously told my wife, I said, no, I think you overheard something. And I bet you he decided I can't film a podcast.
I can't have no.
Yeah.
I was
terrible. Like, he's just too nice to say that. Yeah. It's okay. It's all right.
Like, oh, dude, sorry. Like, I overscheduled myself. But in reality, I heard you. No.
Be like, I see you're online gaming right now, man. Mr. Fortnite.
No, but thanks, Robbie, so much. I just love your brain. I remember the first time we talked, was at an Evangel football game. You came up to me and Zacchiano, and you're like, sorry, guys, I just love talking. And then you just started talking. It was really fun. And then you came up to me. I was reading a TED Talk book for college before I dropped out, sadly. Womp womp. And you just started talking to me. He's like, dude, that's so cool. Like, tell me about it. And dude, so I love your
totally
brain.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. You remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah. So I love your brain, bro. I love the way you think. I love that you're just so open to talk. So I just had to have you on.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, this was good. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for tuning in. Give it up for Robbie Bowman. You stop. Everyone, stop it. Wow. No. You can now subscribe on YouTube, and you can now listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we also have merch. So if you want to not look like Robbie and change your shirt.
Oh, thanks, man.
You're welcome. You can now get merch. But guys, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.